So it's summertime, and we decided to take Behind the Headlines on the road. We've ended up here at the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo, and thanks John Aikin, Executive Director, for inviting us here.
It's my pleasure.
It's good to be here. We have a little special guest with us, I understand.
Yes, I have a towel in my hands with Arwen hiding in here. This is a domestic hedgehog. It's actually an African four-toed hedgehog, but a domesticated version of them. And Arwen was rescued.
I can't even find the face.
Yes, well, as Arwen wakes up, the face is going to come out right here.
Aww.
But Arwen is feeling, one, a little bit grumpy because it's morning and they're nocturnal, and two, Arwen's kind of old and cranky. And so Arwen was rescued by the San Francisco SPCA, and because hedgehogs are illegal as pets in California, the animal had to be surrendered, and so came down here to live the rest of her life out. She is about 5 years old, and
what's the lifespan generally of a hedgehog?
You know, in these domesticated forms only usually live about 5 or 6 years, but in the natural form in Africa live longer. In the wild, most animals don't live as long as they do in captivity because they don't have health care, a steady diet, an exercise program,
right.
All of these kinds of things that they're going to, right. So, but this is an example of one of the animals that we use for education that is such an important part of what we do.
I like her face is slowly emerging, like gradually slithering.
Taking her time. So obviously the Junior Museum and Zoo has been a beloved institution in Palo Alto for a very long time, 8 decades, I understand, for the museum part.
That's right, 1934 is when we were incorporated.
Wow. And it seems to me that a place like this could try to be a little of everything to everybody, but I understand that there's a very central vision and philosophy for what the Junior Museum and Zoo is all about. I wonder if you could just share that with us.
Absolutely. We are here to engage a child's curiosity in science and nature, and we do that by experiences with live animals, and we do it by staging play in ways that engage kids in the process of science and the phenomena of the world.
So it's not just for amusement, but for
no, it's actually really is a serious purpose, but a playful engagement.
Yeah.
Has that always been the case with the museum? I mean, I understand like the big focus of the Junior Museum and Zoo is like what you guys call, was it facilitated experience? Something like a child comes in and there's somebody who knows the material kind of showing them around. And has that always been part of the museum experience?
So we were dedicated as a children's museum, and it was always a mixture of programs. Some programs were exhibits where kids would come in and see, and most of them were static. They were an exhibition of dolls or an exhibition of Native American baskets done in ways to kind of engage kids. And then there are always programs where we facilitate science activities or other kinds of art activities for kids. It's really only been in the last decade or so that we've been so focused on science. And because Palo Alto has an art center, and we realize that with the animal collection and our collections, we have about 3,000 objects behind the scenes, we really are best to focus on science.
So how many animals do you have here at the zoo?
We have 50 different species and about 200 specimens, but many of those are insects and fish. And so if you count the big animals and stuff, it's probably really a dozen really big animals. And then we've got flocks of birds like our weaver finches from Africa that are nesting now. They're building big globular nests in an exhibit where kids can climb up into the exhibit and get eye to eye with the birds. It's really exciting.
But I wanted to ask, so what are you just mentioned one like facilitated experience kind of thing where the children can get eye to eye with the birds. What are some of the other kind of exercises that children can do out here to kind of get a kind of hands-on experience of some of these?
Yeah, so we have an indoor museum that has interactive science exhibits, and 2 exhibits right now. The one behind us, named Buzz, is all about insects and spiders. But really our goal was to get kids to learn to love insects and spiders because they're not only an important part of our ecosystem, but they're a fascinating door to science and evolution and physics. And so we've staged things for kids to play with here, everything from a spider web to crawl on right next to spider webs, real live spiders, a number of different types of insects in live exhibits behind me, in fact, and then things like art and blocks with insects in them, so kids can categorize insects. We brought out some of our pinned insects that were collected in the 1940s and put them on exhibit in sort of a collections cabinet where kids can climb right into the cabinet, as well as open drawers and do their investigations. The other exhibit we have is clean green energy machines, and it's a way of engaging kids in the physics of energy. So it's kids power, it's hydropower, solar power, and we have wind power too, but the wind power machine is down right now, but it'll be coming out again.
I noticed that there's a lot of kids here right now. It's summer, and you guys have summer camps. I was looking at your website, and you have quite a variety. I mean, you would think maybe they're about animals or maybe about bugs or something like that, but you have like physics camp.
That's right.
And other varieties.
Yeah, no, we have 8 camps running right now. We've got, most of them are focused on physics and other phenomena around kinetics or slimes. What makes the world a sticky, gooey place or a slippery or a frictiony place? And what about gravity? And so we're engaging kids in all of in both the process of investigating those things as well as in the phenomena. And we offer those from kindergarten all the way through the 5th grade, and so it's opening up its head just a little bit.
Slowly changes.
And so it depends on the age of the child in terms of what they're ready for in terms of information. So the older kids are actually really looking at it all the way with math and other kinds of geometry and such. But younger kids, it's really more playing with the phenomena.
We're captivated.
Yeah, I know, he's really captivated. I could let Arwen sleep here for a little while and just let him curl up.
Seems pretty chill.
Did we
really
already
is.
mention that she's white-haired or white?
Yeah, so she's an albino four-toed hedgehog that were originally domesticated from Africa. They're insectivores. They eat insects, and so the reason they're against the law to keep as pets in California is because we worry about our own insectivore population, like shrews, native shrews. We're actually fairly rare in California, and we wouldn't want hedgehogs to upset the balance.
Sure. What kinds of food do you need to bring in for all of the animals?
We have a pretty exotic kitchen. We spend the most money on produce, and so I'm going to pass Aaron, let you go back to bed. Thank you, Enos. We spend the most money on produce, so it's about $160 a week we spend on produce, and that's mostly for the fruit bats. It's a lot of chopped fruit and high quality fruit. And we have a lot of special diets as well. So there are pelleted diets for everything from rabbits to ferrets to tropical birds like hornbills and turacos and things. And then birds like our weaver finches feed on a mash of really, you take a Cuisinart and you blend a whole lot of vegetables. We add live insects. We also order frozen rats and mice to feed our predators, and frozen fish for the eagle. And the tortoise eats mostly orchard grass that's soaked in water, and then we give some vegetables and fruits to him as well.
So for the predators or the carnivores, you don't release like live animals for them to like run around and catch?
We don't. There's some ethical considerations when you're a children's museum when you're doing that, but there are also some safety issues for the predators themselves. And so it's safest and easiest for us to order frozen food.
Okay. So the big news here is that the Junior Museum and Zoo is going to undergo a transformation.
Yes.
And the money's been raised for that, I believe, most of it.
We are so excited. Yes, the Friends of the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo took on an ambitious capital campaign, really the largest gift to the public since the 1940s when the Lucy Stern Community Center was built. And they've raised $25 million to rebuild the Junior Museum and Zoo.
Quite a staggering amount. Even recognizing $15 million is from the Peary family, right? And
That's
$10
right.
million from like just community donations, which is pretty ridiculous sum.
It happened pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It did happen very
fundraising
quickly.
systems.
They're still fundraising because we're still in design, and as you may know, cost goes up with these kinds of projects the longer projects take. And so we want to bolster our coffers to make sure that there are sufficient funds to build what we need. But it is a very exciting project. It means that we have to rebuild on this site. So it means that we have to move the museum and the zoo and the collections and the staff and everything away for 2 years. We plan to do that next year. We'll close and move to the Coverly Community Center. And then 2 years, we'll be back here in 2020 opening with a fabulous new facility.
So can we talk a little bit what the new museum will entail? What is the imperative for rebuilding, other than the fact that this, as you mentioned, this facility has been here for so long, and I'm sure it's possibly showing its age a little bit. But.
Well, it is, and we've been here a long time, and the community has grown, and we've grown, and so we've run out of storage space for our education programs. We don't have enough bathrooms for people. We have about 184,000 visitors a year and only 3 toilets. And so we also run out of space literally in the gallery space for kids to play. There are some days that we have to take cell phone numbers while people wait in their cars in the parking lot to call them when somebody's left because we're just at capacity. Oh, wow. And so what we plan to do is double the gallery space, the indoor exhibition place where kids play with these interactive exhibits. And then
you'll do that by going up.
Actually, we're not. We're going to spread out.
I think that was the initial plan. I think that's been changed in the last few months, right?
It has. And there were some challenges with going up and some benefits. But what the current plan is the Dawn Redwood tree that's out front of the museum? Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful teaching tool for us because that tree dates back to the Jurassic period when there were dinosaurs. And it was discovered as a fossil first and then as living specimens. And so we are going to build the museum around that tree. That tree will then be the foundation for a Jurassic garden where we'll talk about fossil records and evidence and dinosaurs native to California. The tree is native to China, but we're going to focus on local dinosaurs because we think kids will appreciate that.
And what about the Loose in the Zoo thing that's going to be part of the new one? Can you talk a little about that?
Who's going to be loose, the animals or the kids?
Both. So kids...
Is this a what could possibly go wrong scenario?
Because one of the wonderful things about this place is parents love to turn their kids loose and let them explore. And so Loose in the Zoo is all about turning your kids loose and letting them find animals where they would expect to look for them. So they're going to go underground and underwater and up into the trees to find animals. And then many of the animals will be loose, those that are safe enough to be loose with children. And also have the means to get away from children, because it has to be safe for the animals too. Mm-hmm. And so it's mostly the bird collection that will be loose. And so the entire zoo will be netted over and will be a lush landscape with many hard forms in it that look like mud banks and giant trees. There'll be a pond that kids can literally crawl through a tube underwater. You'll be able to look up at the raccoons through their water as they manipulate food. And so we're really folding the landscape around the child and letting the child explore and find the animals where they would live in nature. But there's also a facilitated, you mentioned this facilitated interaction thing, facilitated program in the zoo where, because the animals all know the keepers, and so we can then stage an interaction where the birds, even though they're loose, they'll come down to eat, and so we can stage interactions and let the kids feed the birds.
This experiential kind of learning situation, is that pretty new for zoos particularly? I know that there's a lot of butterfly exhibits around the world and people can walk in through. But for animals specifically, is this something that zoos have been doing for a while? Or?
There's a trend towards it, I think, because people want to touch animals, they want to get close to animals, and zoos understand animals and what is safe for the animal and what is safe for the public. And so zoos tend to find ways to do programs that are working. So there is a trend in that direction. But I think what sets us apart is we're already a children's museum and we understand child development and really how kids want to engage with these things. And so we're really testing new ways to do that by engaging climbing play with the animal exhibits and other kinds of exploration. There'll be sculptures of every animal out in the zoo so that if a kid is sight impaired, they'll still be able to feel the shape of the animal and other ways of novel interpretation.
When you're at Cubberley, are the animals going to be there as well?
Well, some of the animals we're going to find homes for. There are people that have offered to care for them, other institutions, while we are under construction. But some of the animals will be sheltered at Cubberley, not in a public zoo, but behind the scenes. And then other animals, particularly the animals like the hedgehogs that we use in our education programs, will be in indoor facilities where some of them will be on display.
Yeah.
Like, how complex is that undertaking? I mean, it sounds like it would be kind of a tough endeavor moving all these animals who have their own kind of established ecosystems to Cubberley Community Center.
I think it's going to be stressful for all of us, and so we're planning for that. And so we are taking all of our staff, even though we'll have a reduced population of animals, because those animals will be more challenging to care for in a temporary environment than they are in an environment that's been built for them for a long time. And we want to make sure that they're happy and healthy and that this is successful. We also will be opening a children's museum with a couple of the exhibits that we have now, but some new ones that we're planning, and it's a chance for us to prototype how kids are going to react to some of the new exhibits. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know a while back you invited the Stanford D School, I believe it was, to look at the exhibits now and kind of come up with new ones. Were they the genesis for some of the new exhibits?
Yes, they provided some great ideas and are continuing to provide great ideas. We have great relationships with Stanford, not just the D School, but also the Stanford Psychology Department. The Bing Institute has 3 labs in the museum where they're learning about how children learn in a social context. And so they come here to find people that want to participate in that research. And the education department at Stanford is also very, very helpful in helping us both with evaluations, but also research to make sure that we're at the top of our game in terms of teaching.
And Palo Alto is probably known for 2 things more than any others. Its dedication to recreation and children, and also the complexity of its planning and building permitting process. And you're kind of in the middle of both of those. And I know in the last few weeks you've been kind of going through boards and commissions, and the last few years also, and you had to revise your plans. I just wanted to get your take, how long do you think it's going to take to get through this, and how difficult has it been finalizing the design and actually kind of getting to the phase where at some point in the near future construction can begin?
Well, it sounds like you know the process even better than I do because you watch it so frequently. But I think we're towards the end of our entitlement phase now. We are about to launch the environmental review for its public comment period. But preparing that environmental review is a lot of work, a lot of initial studies and things. The early design process where we go to the Parks Commission and we go to the Architectural Review Board, we've been to those commissions now so many times, we really understand what they're looking for.
Is the Architectural Review Board I'm worried about?
So I think we're getting pretty close with that. We have a formal study session in July. I think it's July 20th, and we are optimistic that will go well. We'll probably come back another time, but we've done all of our historic work. So I think we're getting towards the end of that entitlement phase. Then there is all of the serious design to finish the interiors of the building, the exhibits and all of that. That's going to take almost another year. So we really won't be ready to pull building permits until next year.
And when do you think the new facility will be open up?
We're planning in 2020. We have not picked an opening date yet because there's still too much in flux right now. But we'll probably finish constructing the building before the date that we pick for opening because we need time to bring the exhibits in, bring the animals in, commission staff, get everything ready.
Speaking of bringing the animals in, I see one of the most famous, probably the second most famous hooded resident of Palo Alto behind the scenes.
So our bald eagle is here, Sequoia. I'm going to grab a glove.
Nice.
And this is John Flynn. John Flynn is going to hand me Sequoia, and we can sit and chat with her.
All right. That's more fun than permitting.
There we go. Gotcha.
Glorious. So how old is Sequoia now?
Sequoia is 29 years old. And that is at the age where most eagles in the wild die. And so she is a pretty old eagle from standards of wild eagles, but we're hoping that she'll live at least another decade, because in captivity they have a longer lifespan, and she may live another 10 years. But she was originally found shot when she was just 6 months old up in Humboldt County, and the bullet almost removed one of her toes and then went into her pelvis and damaged the nerves, and she has a paralyzed tail, so it doesn't function. And she
Tails are important for controlling flight.
yeah, it's a stabilizer and rudder and brake system, really. And what she can't do is hunt. All of those subtle maneuvering and manipulations that it takes to pull a fish out of the water, she wouldn't be able to do. But she can fly, and we fly her for the public in Rinconada Park in the fall, and then in the wintertime, usually Bixby Park out in the Palo Alto Baylands. And so people can come out and see her there. She's also very popular in classrooms and summer camps, and makes appearances all over town.
Nice. And despite like the handicap that she suffered at a young age, and her age, she still keeps things very interesting for you guys every now and then. When she ventures out and you guys have to like find her again?
She does, and sometimes the press picks up on it, but most of the time they don't, because she actually does it with a fair amount of frequency, because eagles are highly mobile. They can move quickly and over vast distances.
You must be a fast runner to keep able to find her all the time.
We have a trick. We put a radio transmitter on her tail and a GPS tracker, and so we usually know where she is. And so people say, "Oh, well, your eagle has escaped." Well, no, we turned her loose. And then they say, "But you've lost her." Well, no, we know where she is. We just haven't gotten her down yet.
So what is she doing? What is she doing when you find her? She's just chilling there, like.
Sometimes she's chilling. Usually she's ducking from wild birds of prey that are diving at her because she's in their territory. And sometimes fleeing territories of other eagles and things like that. So life in the wild can be scary and rough. And so usually she's very ready to come down to us when we get close enough to her that she can see us. She's ready to come back.
Well, I imagine she's hungry at that point if her hunting skills.
It's true. She doesn't eat or drink when she's out flying around.
Yeah, just enjoying the freedom for a little bit.
But an impressive bird, aren't they? You can see
Gorgeous.
why these animals have been chosen as heraldic figures and symbols of state for so long. They really stop you in your tracks. All of my life I've been working with birds of prey, and they never cease to fascinate me.
She looks quite large and heavy as well, is she?
Well, actually, I ask kids this question, and they often say that she must be about 30 pounds, because they think of cats and small dogs around the house and stuff. And if she were a mammal at this size, she probably would weigh that. But she's a bird. She has hollow feathers, hollow bones, hollow portions of her body, and she's very minimal in terms of tendons and bones and muscles are distributed in a way that makes it very efficient but very lightweight. And so she only weighs 11 pounds.
Oh, wow.
She's clearly one of the stars of the show in the zoo. Who are some of the other kind of iconic animals that are? I know Edward the tortoise is one of them.
Yes, Edward's very popular. Edward, it was a former pet in Palo Alto, and grew up in Palo Alto in a backyard, and is very popular, I think, because Lori Lee Harper, one of our animal caretakers, has trained Edward to come out and do walks around the zoo, and kids will touch Edward with kindness. And
She has quite a relationship with him.
She does, and her relationship with him has taught me a lot about tortoises. There's a lot more going on in a tortoise's head than I think I knew before I really got to know Edward as well as we know now.
And you have bobcats? Bobcat?
We have bobcat right now. We used to have 2 bobcats, and one of them got so old, began to have kidney failure and other age-related diseases that we had to put him to sleep. And now Thule is middle-aged, heading into old age. And bobcats in the wild live alone. And if you raise them together, like most house cats, if you raise them together, they get along. So there are a number of risks of introducing new cats to Thule. But when she's ready for it, we'll find another rescue bobcat and introduce her. But right now, she seems to be happy, kind of just having the place to herself and interacting with staff.
And I think I read in the plans that the bobcat exhibit is going to remain here, even if everything else is replaced, right?
It is. It's the only thing here, actually, that's not going to be removed during construction.
And so will you be introducing new animals as part of the expansion I think I read something about a meerkat colony. And,
Yes, you
some other
did.
things.
Yeah, so we've got a number of nocturnal animals, and kids are here during the day, so we thought let's choose a diurnal animal, an animal that's active during the day, and a colonial social animal so that kids can see social interactions in animals. And so we chose meerkats or dwarf mongoose. And so we're designing for a colony of those, and kids will be able to climb right into the exhibit, not with the animals, but behind glass, but climb through a log. The meerkats will also be able to pop up in unexpected places in the zoo. And then we have some other animals. Certainly the bird collection is increasing for this Loose in the Zoo experience, including hand-raised flamingos. And we're going to have some surprises in terms of handleable animals that'll be part of our education program that will also come out to the zoo.
That's great. So the JMZ will be here for another year, just to let the public know. It's not closing right now.
That's right.
And then you'll embark on your plans after that.
That's right.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to let us know about the JMZ while we're here?
Well, just that we'll be here and open for another year. Don't forget to come and visit and keep in touch with all the animals. We'll try and do our best job to let everybody know the schedule when we move. And then definitely come to visit us in Coverly. We'll have some surprises and a lot of fun there.
Okay. Well, John Aikin and Sequoia, thank you for being with us. We've really had a good time here.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
So
hospitality.
great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it for Behind the Headlines. So subscribe to us, like us, follow us on social media. We're also at paloaltoonline.com. And again, we thank the Junior Museum and Zoo for hosting us today. That's it for this week.